All right. Your good future just isn't going to happen if you don't do absolutely everything you can. This is Margin, segment number 20. It's Thursday, October 13th, 2022. And Margin is about starting a business. And what I just said to you, your good future just isn't going to happen if you don't do absolutely everything you can, is something that I wrote to myself 10 or so minutes ago as I was contemplating what I'm doing. I think I just I feel it's raining here. It's raining. And when I said that, it reminded me of that scene in the Social Network when he's being deposed. I didn't do that on purpose, I swear. Oh, good. I'm laughing because I was hit by a truck. This segment was going to be, the title was product and production. So stupid. Like, I know this stuff is interesting, but you're not, first of all, there's no you yet. Like, no one listens to this, no one watches this, but that makes sense to me. I don't know why you would pay attention to this. I'm in the attention economy, and that's part of the epiphany I had a few minutes ago. But when you're in the attention economy, there's no reason for anyone to pay attention to you if you don't have sort of a catalog. Unless you're doing something nuts, but I'm not doing anything nuts. So there's going to be product and production, and that's interesting. Like, when there is a you to whom I can talk, when there's, I'm looking at like the live stream numbers, and I shouldn't, because that'll make me nervous if suddenly 50 people show up and I'm, whoa, I was just talking to myself. Why'd you people just let yourselves in? When that subject is going to be interesting, but it's nothing compared to dreams and delusions. The way that I think about it, this sort of stuff, the difference between a topic like product and production and dreams and delusions, it's this thing I call, I don't even know if I should tell you this, but I'm just, who cares? My shoulders. Like, you should go where your shoulders want you to go. So, people say heart or whatever, but I feel it in my shoulders. I don't think there's anything different about my shoulders. That's just where I feel it. It's like, it's up here. Chest, but it's not, it doesn't feel like it's in the middle. It feels more like it's spread out. I don't know. To talk about product and production makes a lot of sense. Like, right now, the big problem I'm dealing with is, on the one hand, I can make a Retraice episode, and I can make it pretty good. I was listening today, if I do say so myself, I was listening to the first and second Retraces, and for a long time I didn't like them because everyone that I knew who listened to them couldn't follow them, and so I stopped liking them. I'm going too slow, I'm being too abstract, and I'm not being animated enough, or myself. I'm naturally this animated. I'm being myself right now, or I'm trying to be. It's hard when you're live streaming, but I'm pretty close. But back then I was a bit more reserved, whatever. But I didn't like them for a long time. But then I listened to them again, and I listened to them from a different perspective, and I can't explain to you why, but I did. Like, I can't go into this, it's too personal. But and it throws me off. Yeah, so it's useful. Like, I can make a good product, but production, which is the checklist and maybe the website and all this automation, all this stuff that makes it possible to sort of, okay, you got something, you can make something good. Can you do it quickly? And can you get it to people? It's like manufacturing a car. Forget that. I'll talk about that later. That's valid. But My shoulders. I did something and it led me to that thought. Your good future just isn't going to happen if you don't do absolutely everything you can. That and the thoughts that led up to it hit me like a truck. It hit you like a truck, really? Well, geez, buddy, I know, it seems obvious. But that's why that's why this is about delusions as much as it is about dreams. Like, my dreams are huge. Like, stupid huge. I mean, I would never tell them to you. I would never tell them to anyone. Have I told my wife my dreams? She thinks she knows. She's listening to this. She's not listening live because this is not a good time. But now she's listening. Does she know I don't think so. I don't think anybody knows. My dreams are huge. And she knows them better than anybody. Like, don't worry. Like, by a mile she knows them. But the point is, they come with delusions, and I think the bigger the dreams, the bigger the delusions. Ooh, I'm having lemmas now. My thesis is, your good future just isn't going to happen if you don't do absolutely everything you can. And in trying to prove it, I think I just produced a lemma. No, this isn't proofs, but that's not good. Dreams and delusions being proportional. God damn it. Delusions. I've done them my whole life. It's like, afterwards, it's obvious. Here's what it is. Afterwards, after a delusion, well, if you know it's a delusion at some point in your life, it's after the fact, and it's it seems obvious. But wait a second now. You can't just say that. You can't say, first we delude ourselves, and then later we realize we were deluding ourselves, and it seems sort of obvious. That's almost like what a delusion, the life cycle of a delusion is, to be non-obvious, to be invisible, I mean, impenetrable, a ghost in the room of, the what is behind the fog in life is the delusion. No, that doesn't work. The delusion is like that you don't think there is a fog. Okay, I'm just going to make a note to myself here. The book on fresh air is called Immense World by Jung, I think. All right, note to self, sidetrack. I'm not going to explain that, but that's relevant right there. Anyway, the delusion is there is no fog, and then you later realize, oh, I was in some fog back there. But then, like, I'm out of it. Like, I'm not in it anymore. It's okay. The life cycle of the delusion is complete. It's dead. The delusion is dead. Wait a second. They don't all work like that. There's one kind of delusion that escapes that life cycle, and it's the kind that you never escape. You never get out of. You never realize. You never leave. The delusion that you never know as such doesn't die. And the way that normal delusions, life cycle complete delusions work, in part, I think, certainly in my experience, is they don't seem that important once they're dead, or once they're dying, once you're out of them, you don't feel like, oh crap, delusion, look out. It's too late. You were already deluded at the relevant time. You're no longer deluded. You recognize having been deluded, and you shrug. The life cycle of a delusion. But what about the other ones? It could be just one. And dreams are mortally wounded by delusions. Even just basic safety is mortally wounded. Figuratively, and sometimes, well, if we're talking about basic safety, we are talking only about literally being mortally wounded by a delusion. Now, you can't be really literally wounded by the delusion, but you're almost literally wounded by the delusion of walking down a dark alley by yourself when you're young in a town where you should not be. If I have dreams that are as big as I say they are, and I do because I'm in my head, and trust me, it would stand to reason, if what I've said so far is approximates the truth, that I am okay, here it comes. I'm walking around in a fog of delusions that are extremely a lot. Like my dreams are extremely a lot. And I don't even like thinking about I don't like thinking about any of this, but you can see them. Maybe you can. You can see my delusions. Can you see my delusions? I'm on the internet. I'm on video here. I'm being myself. You know all the relevant parts of what I care about. And I mean, if you've watched everything or listened to everything. Can you see these things? I don't see them. Well, half an hour ago, I didn't see them. 20 minutes ago, maybe. I think I started to see them. So, let's get specific. Not putting anything on the... No, don't do that. Let me see if this is usable. I'm going to read you something very private, but it's not that private, but I didn't write this thinking I was going to read it to the internet. This is a note to myself. You fantasize about a wildly successful future, but the hour of too late is growing dangerously close. You're in the attention economy. You have an enormous mountain to climb. Maybe you should just do ads and get big enough to go ad-free later. That's just like one. I mean, that's the begin. That last part is just the beginning of a list of things that, I have an enormous mountain to climb, and that was just the first thing, because there's so many clunky things about paywalling and subscription as opposed to advertising. And the reason that advertising versus paywalling is important to me is because of independence. I hate the idea in the future of having to worry about what advertisers think about what I'm saying. I want the ultimate freedom to say whatever I want, like I have right now, because there's, nobody can, the only person who can stop me from saying something is me. I don't want to give that up. However, I don't want to be an extremist about anything either. Not because that freedom of speech thing isn't valuable to me, or freedom of thought in business in particular. Not just like I can walk down the street, but like, no, I can make money and no one can turn off the spigot just because I tick them off. There's limits. There's limits to this stuff. If you're an absolutist about such things, an extremist, an ideologue, let's say, you're not living in the real world. You can't set rules like that. It's not a game. So I don't want to be an extremist. And so I've considered ads for a long time, but it just never come back being worth it, because I hate ads. I hate them. I understand how important they are, and how they are part of a free and open market, and that something much worse could come along if we somehow outlawed advertising. Trust me. No, don't trust me, but I believe that. But I hate most of them. There are a few, 1% that I love. I love a good ad. Oh man. And I hate the rest, and go to hell, every one of you advertisements. All right. Anyway, back to this note. So you fantasize about a wildly successful future, but the hour of too late is growing dangerously close. You're in the attention economy. You have an enormous mountain to climb. Maybe you should just do ads. Maybe do the ad-free. Get big enough so you can go ad-free later. Okay. Next point. You need to go fast. This means, well, and then I'm like, maybe, I say this means production multiple times daily, including serious content prep. Production needs to be lightning fast. Yeah, this is all stuff that I know. But you need to go fast. You're running out of time, is what I'm telling myself here in this note. The next point, and the last point, you need to go wide. You can't possibly become successful in the attention economy with one arm tied behind your back. Your good future just isn't going to happen if you don't do absolutely everything you can. It sounds so stupidly obvious when I say it out loud, but you have to understand the best stuff, when people make great content, which is a horrible word, content, like it's so inadequate to what people are trying to do when they make books and great television or great speeches or great music, great podcasts. When you see great content, as Ira Glass explains in a wonderful little short series of videos buried on the internet somewhere, it's because someone, probably more than one person, is being really, really tough. Really tough on that content, tough on the people making it, rejecting far, far more than they accept, being really tough. So I'm trying to make great content and I'm being really tough. But that's where do these delusions come from? In part, they come from the sort of commitment and devotion to those tough things, the rules that we put in place. People like me. I did the same thing with music. I was a musician once, and I had dreams of a wildly successful future, and it amounted to nothing. And I don't have a lot of regrets about it because music wasn't right for me. This is right for me. This podcast, Retraice, is right for me in a way that music never was. But I was really hard on what I created and when I was willing to share it with anybody, which turned out to be never. And nothing ever got good enough that I wanted anybody to really have it. I mean, people would hear me, like they'd hear me playing and little parts of things, and I made some recordings, but it was like almost nothing was ever good enough. Anyway, that was delusional. It was totally delusional. The approach I should have taken in retrospect, and I'm glad I didn't because, like I said, music was not right for me, was the Eddie Van Halen or the Van Halen brothers approach, which was basically play like crazy everywhere you can, have fun, and by the way, also be tough after all that. You can't start with the tough because you kill it, whatever it is. It's like a child. I mean, you don't kill a child, but it's like you're really hard on a child, right? You want them to have a great future, and you don't want them to turn into something that no one wants to be. You don't start with oh, it's a new baby, how wonderful, in the hospital. Sit up straight. Stop crying. Some people do that. I'm sure there's a dad out there, some asshole it's got to have happened, right? The day of the birthday, the day of birth, some dad, stop crying. When I had my first kid, I talked to her like she was a grown up. Like I didn't know how to talk to kids, so it was just like, how's your day? Your day this is a pretty big day. I don't know what I said, but I just remember the tone of voice I don't know why I remember this. It's totally wrong. I didn't learn that sort of how to talk to children voice until soon after. But I didn't tell her to be quiet. But that's what you're doing if you put the tough first. Is that the delusion? Shit. Is that it? So it's like, that's what delusion. No, I don't know. I don't know if this is going to be some broadly applicable idea, but like, I got to close my eyes because I'll forget this. Is the delusion when you put the tough first instead of the love, the love? You put tough before love? And then, yes, because you don't want to bound something you love. Like if you love a person or a thing that you're doing, unbounded is a word that comes to mind. Isn't it? It is for me. But in that unboundedness, you can maybe you can see, or you realize, or you just assume culturally because if other people believe it, and so you've taken that belief on yourself. You can see that problems lay ahead, unbound. I mean, nothing without constraints ever. It's just nothing. I mean, there's a book called. Why am I doing that? I'm gonna have to put this in the notes. I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't talk about this. There's a book called The Theory of Nothing by Standish, Henry K. something Standish. I haven't really read it. I dipped in it, but it was interesting. But it was a long time ago. But like a thing that's all noise, like a place, like the universe or a message on a network, that's all just that it has all the information, has something that has all the possible information that a system could have, has no information. There's nothing constraining any aspect of it. It's just like it's white noise. It's noise. So the tough, you love something, you want it to be unbounded, you want it to become the most, but you have to put constraints on things. And that's fine. Of course you do. Of course you have to raise your children. You can't just fawn over them for as long as they're adorable, which is, that comes to an end, the adorability. Not a permanent end, but it just diminishes in relative frequency. Sorry, kids. But if you put the tough first, does that lead to delusions? Is that delusion? Is that what delusion is? That where they come from? Maybe, or maybe delusions cause you to put the tough first. Maybe that's the most important delusion. I'm going to have to untie all of the hands behind my back. I need to go fast. I already knew that. But that might entail things like giving up the paywall and the website, the subscription model and the website. But maybe not. I'm not going to make decisions on the fly here, and I need to go wide. You can't possibly become successful in the attention economy with one arm tied behind your back. Part of me thought about this. Two of my steps in the checklist are, send a message out to Twitter, send a message out to Facebook. But it's like there are other places I could send out messages. For a while I was doing Instagram, although it didn't really feel like Instagram wanted me to do it. Like you couldn't hyperlink, and there's a few other things that just sort of seemed like Instagram is not the place to be doing this right now, or maybe at all. But of course no one follows us on Twitter and no one follows us on Facebook. So this is sort of like part of the catalog. You put things in time in the past, and then when someone does finally arrive, they see the past and they think, oh, hopefully they don't look at the likes, because they're going to say, nobody likes this. Nobody subscribes to this. But, we could be in a lot more places than that. I talked about this. I know, like distribution. Our distribution game is not good. But it's so much more than that. This is a mentality. Like, I am not going to get there at this rate. Shit. The hour of too late is growing dangerously close. Shit. Delusions. I am going to have to find. You don't find them. You leave them. You escape from them. You exit them. You do something. What do you do to what is shed? You shed them. Shed. I'm going to have to shed my delusions, which you might be able to see. But screw you. How does that help me? I can't. If I could see you on the internet for hours at a time, I bet I could see your delusions. Don't get all like that. I'm going to have to shed my delusions to be successful in business and in life. But how are they separated, honestly? Where's the dividing line? References from this segment will be in the show notes. Not in the RSS feed, but you have to click through to a PDF or just go to notes.retrace.com. The full PDF notes will be at retrace.com, retraice.com. This is Margin, segment 20. I'll see you after midnight.